A very good morning, 8th standard. This is Anviti here, your social studies teacher with Block 4, and today we are going to discuss all the worksheet, practice question, and additional question of the block. So get ready with your content book along with the notebook, worksheet, and the stationery that is essential. So, moving further, first of all, we will discuss our worksheets. So, open your worksheets and we will start doing our revision or discussion. Here is the, as I told you, to read the comic strip and you need to answer these questions. So, name two acts that British imposed on Americans. Might be you have written and any two causes of the American Revolution. So you can write any of the two causes of your choice. Okay. Now question number third. Alex is an American living in an American colony of the British during the 18th century. Do you think he can participate in the British Parliament? Give reason for your answer. No, I think Alex will not be allowed to participate in the British Parliament. The British believed that the Americans were their subordinates. The British felt that they had the authority to make laws for all their colonies without giving them any representation in the British Parliament. Come to S2. What were the three branches that you can do easily? How did the ideals of American Revolution shape the government of the newly formed USA? So you know what were the ideals: liberty, equality, and freedom. And based on this, the new government, federal, republican, and democratic government came into existence. So you can write this also. Uh, Here, do you think the Indian Constitution is similar to American Constitution in any way? Give reason for your answer. So you can write your own answer. Maybe your answer is different from other students' answer or from my answer, but for the convenient, I will give you the sample answer. The Indian Constitution is also based on the ideals of equality and freedom. Similar of those of the American Constitution, India is also a federal democratic republic like USA. Got it? Okay. Now come to the next S3. Who were slaves and what kind of lives did they lead? So you have written, might be you have written that they were people forcibly brought in from Africa to work on the plantation and in households also. They led extremely difficult lives. They were forced to work under poor conditions. They had no rights of freedom and they were considered to be owned by their master. So they were forced to do whatever their master wanted for himself to do. Now, second question: how did slavery ultimately become the main cause for American Civil War to take place? So, as you know, the northern and southern states has different views on slavery. The northern states favored the abolition of slavery, and the southern states felt that the plantation economy would suffer if slavery was abolished. When Abraham Lincoln decided to abolish slavery, the southern states decided to separate from the American Union. This was not acceptable to the government, and the Civil War began in order to keep the Union together. Now, come to question number 3. Imagine that you are Abraham Lincoln. Why do you think that slavery needs to be abolished? Might be you have written the different answer, but here is a sample answer. We are all humans and it is our right to be free and to be treated equally. Using someone as slave is a crime against humanity. Making people work under inhuman conditions to earn huge profit is unjust. That is not justice. Slavery is especially shameful for a country like America, which was founded on the ideals of equality and freedom. I would appeal to all the citizens of USA to stand up against slavery and uproot it completely from our country. Got it? Now come to the practice question. So these are the practice questions and you need to write down these answers. First question, write one term and immediate cause of American Revolution. In long term cause, you can write during the 7 Year Wars, the British had treated the American colonists as allies. However, from the 1760s onwards, the British started treating these colonies as subordinates, whose main purpose was to provide resources to the British Crown. And this attitude of British was in opposition to the expectations of the colonists who wanted the same rights and duties as other British subjects. And in immediate cause, a series of unfair and oppressive acts called as the Intolerable Acts were passed by the British Parliament. When the representatives of the colonies asked the British ruler, King George III, to address their concerns, they were seen as rebels and Britain declared war. War broke out in Lexington and Concord. Now come to the question number 2. Why did Americans raise the slogan no taxation without representation? Americans demanded representation in the British Parliament since they were expected to pay heavy taxes. They wanted participation in making decisions. However, their demand was not accepted by the British. In protest of this attitude, the Americans raised the slogan no taxation without representation. Got it? Now, question number 3. Explain what would your attitude have been towards the taxation of colonies if you were George III? It means King of Britain, and if you were Thomas Jefferson, means representative of America. So, as you know, King George imposed the taxation or taxes on them. So, taxation was justified because the purpose of the colonies uh, was to make Britain wealthier. And if you were Jefferson, so taxation was unacceptable without representation in the parliament. Okay, now come to the question number 4. Why was the newly formed government divided into three separate bodies? Obviously, to keep a check on the power of each other. Fifth one. What were the major concerns of the revolutionaries while writing the constitution? The revolutionaries were concerned that the constitution should be designed in a manner that reflected the revolutionary values. They wanted people to have greater freedom and liberty under the new government. Got it? Okay. What was overall impact of American Revolution? This is question number 6. The American Revolution led to an emergence of United Nation of America as a free nation. Got it? It would also go on to have a global impact by inspiring leaders in the countries such as France and India to fight for freedom. Okay, question number 7. Why was slavery revived in USA after independence? So, as we have already discussed, After independence, there was conversation of abolishing the practice of importing slaves. However, as demand for American cotton rose during the British Industrial Revolution, slavery was revived because slaves were needed to work on the cotton plantation. Come to question number 9. Why do you think the southern state did not support the abolition of slavery? So, as you know, southern state focused on agriculture and dependent on the plantation, such as tobacco and cotton. These plantations needed a lot of human labor, which was provided by slaves only. That is why southern states believed that abolition of slavery would harm the plantation economy. Got it? Okay, now come to question number 10. The American Civil War was based on the issue of slavery. Did the victory of North ensure full restoration of rights for the African American community? So, here also your question may vary. As you see, your answer will be like that. But I would like to put you the sample answer. No, the victory of North in American Civil War did not succeed in restoring rights to the African American community. Although there was a period of restoration during which some rights were restored to them. This progress was lost when new racial systems were put into place. African American voters were excluded and racial segregation came to be practiced. I hope you understood it. Now come to the additional question. Which philosopher influenced the American Revolution? So this question means this answer you can write very easily. Now come to question number second. Even till 1760s, the American colonists considered themselves to be the subject of British crown. What caused the change of their attitude? During the Seven-Year Wars, British had treated American colonists as allies. However, from 1760s onwards, the British started treating these colonists as subordinates, whose main purpose was to provide resources to the British Crown. This shift in attitude of British from treating Americans as allies to subordinate caused the change in the attitude of Americans also. What were the important features of newly established government of United States of America? So you know that the new government was federal republic with a democratic form of government, and the government was divided into three branches: the Congress or the legislative, the executive, and that was headed by the president, and the judiciary. And each branch was expected to keep a check on the power of other, providing a system of checks and balances. Now come to question number 4. How did different patterns of economic growth in North and South affect American history in 19th century? Several times we have discussed that North was industrialized, South was based on or dependent on agriculture and plantations, where slaves were needed as a laborers. Therefore, they had different views on the issue of slavery, and which eventually led to the American Civil War. And this changed the history. It means slavery was abolished from America. Now come to question number 5. Where were the construction laws useful to American society? How? The Reconstruction laws failed to permanently change the lives of African American community right after the Civil War. However, the same laws were used later during the civil rights movements of 1960s in order to end racial segregation. Got it? Question number 6. How did American Revolution plant the seeds for the American Civil War? Here also you can write your own point of view, your own perspective, but here is the sample answer. The American Revolution planted the seeds for the American Civil War as the revolutionary ideals of liberty, equality, and freedom were upheld by some in the slavery debate, which ultimately led to the American Civil War. I hope you are able to understand all the question answers of this block. If you do have any problem, please read the section one more time, then you would be able to answer by your own. Complete your work on time. Thank you and have a nice day.